may have noticed something on WWE TV recently, and that would be gimmicks. Now, I know that sounds like a weird thing to say when we're talking about wrestling, because one of the first things that crops into your mind is that it's all about gimmicks, but that's not actually true. If you remember the Attitude Era, basically, we just had a bunch of dudes that were running around as themselves. I mean, Stone Cold was just Steve Austin, and The Rock was The Rock. It wasn't like one was a fireman and the other one would help take your bins out once a week. In a quest to bounce back from low ratings, though, it does appear that WWE is looking back to what it used to do in order to try and find a new but old direction. And that's why WWE's new gimmicks have one foot in the past. Why? Imagine you've never seen me do that before. You think I'm crazy. Here's why. The best thing about wrestling is that it's cyclical, and what I mean by that is sometimes you can actually bring out old things from the past and a whole new audience has no idea what they're seeing, so they love it and they buy in as if it's fresh faith. It's why usually your greatest memories of professional wrestling are when you watched it as a kid, because it's all fresh and brand new and pristine and exciting. Now that kind of, well, it's not great for lifers like you and I because we've seen it all, but as it has been proven to work time and time again, I understand why the industry does it. The thing is, I am not so sure this time it's going to be a huge success. I mean, let's start with the one and only Robert Roode, formerly known as Bobby Roode. If anybody out there can look at him with his brand new moustache and kind of new persona and say that he's not paying homage just a teeny little bit to somebody we know as Rick Rude, then please come round to my house or my office or find me in the street, in a pub, in a bar, in the gym, wherever, because I have a feeling we can have a lovely debate, which I believe I will win. It is just an updated version of Rick Rude, and I imagine that's what came into Vince McMahon's head. He was probably looking down the roster, saw that he had a Rude on his books, then noticed he had a big beard, just ready to be shaved into one of these, and the light bulbs went off in his head. He said, I know what we can do. Chad Gable's been moved to SmackDown. We can make a new Rick Rude. And Robert isn't gyrating his hips or telling women that they should fancy him, but he is playing the arrogant, cocky heel. Hell, he even wears a robe. And I know that he was wearing a robe before we started doing this, but it still all ties in. It's not like someone said, hey Rude, stop wearing the robe. They probably said you should wear two robes. Basically, if you hadn't watched wrestling since the 90s and then just happened to tune into Raw recently, you will have gone. Your first thought would have been, this guy is clearly taking a look back to Rick Rude and trying to mimic what he did. And that doesn't mean that it won't work either. I mean, it instantly made Robert Roode more interesting than he'd been up to this point, and it gave him a big singles win on Raw where he took on and destroyed Ricochet. And as we are talking about old Rick, don't forget that now, during his entrance, we don't have one, but two bullet noises, especially the one where he pulls off his head and it goes pow, because his name is Ricochet, and that's what a bullet does. But I'll say this, doesn't that remind you of mid-90s WWE or WWF as it was then, where things were just a little bit cartoony? Once again, I think that it does. I can totally see that happening during the New Generation era, where everybody had to have an occupational gimmick. Again, we even had a dude that would take out your trash, and another one that was an accountant. Boo, accountant, I don't want to pay my taxes. Of course, it also brought us Repo Man, the biggest hero out of all of pro wrestling. So it will always have a special space in my heart. Also, as a quick tangent, who in their right mind would think, oh, if we add a bullet noise to Ricochet's entrance, that's going to help the product? I mean, where does that conversation go? If you ever watched him come down the ring and went, I could get into him, but I haven't heard a bullet noise, pow, and therefore I can't, something has gone terribly wrong. And that's the reason I don't really get it. It happened the week before Rude decided to fashion himself a moustache when we got the NXT call-up for the War Raiders / the Viking Experience / the Viking Raiders. And on another quick note, apparently we may be about to change their name again to the Viking Warriors. And if we do that, I would just like to say, well done WWE. You killed those NXT guys off quicker than anybody else. And I'm focusing on the name because there was another one that Vinnie Mac wanted to use before he settled on all of this, and I guess he hasn't even settled yet, but he wanted to call them the Berserkers, and that is a page straight out of 1992 when we did have a character, we did have a gimmick of the Berserker. He was like a Viking guy that came out and he was wearing a fluffy hat. So essentially what we were going to do is that we were going to take a name from the past, we were going to make it a plural, and then just hurl it onto a new tag team. I mean, that is the equivalent of taking Lars Sullivan, Braun Strowman, making them a tag team and calling them the Warlords. And just to, be honest and transparent, I stole that joke, but it made me laugh, so I'm saying it. And I would imagine a lot of fans would have rolled their eyes because it's a little too much on the nose, but that's only if you are a veteran watcher. Again, if you are brand new to the product, you'll probably go, wow, look at these two big guys called the Warlords. I bet they're gonna kick somebody's ass. If you don't know who these old figures are, it's all absolutely irrelevant. Weird hand. Over-the-top gimmicks are back on the table, however, and that's probably why we got the green light when it comes to Bray Wyatt and his brand new persona. Now, I'm not trying to say we've ever seen anything like that within the WWE up until this point, and hopefully it just gets creepier and creepier as the weeks go on. But think of it like this. If Vince McMahon has opened the door, walked through it and found his old playbook and think, this will work, then he's probably going to green light some brand new ones too. You can mix them all together. And that's Wyatt's thing summed up. There ain't nothing like that, and we've got to see where we are in 6 to 8 to 12 weeks. But if that one works and somehow the Viking, whatever the hell their name is going to be, takes off, maybe it was a good idea. Doesn't mean that it's not old. The promotion has to do something though, so why not this? And given that you have hired back the likes of Jeff Jarrett and Bruce Pritchard, whose period would have been around this time when all the crazy gimmicks are coming out of the cracks, why not use their experience and their expertise to try and get some over in 2019? It's been so long, there could be an interesting twist to it, even to the point if you want to bring back Duke the Dumpster Droese, maybe that will work. I don't know, but I bet it means that Tyler Breeze is happy. Tyler Breeze has been a walking gimmick for the last, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years? Hopefully this means he can get back on TV. He's got all this stuff down already. He holds a little selfie stick. That's probably past its prime now. We can update it. Gimmicks. You could even compare all of this to WWE in 2006, because that shocked a lot of people, where all of a sudden we had the likes of Eugene and the Spirit Squad. And we were coming right off the Attitude Era. Seeing a bunch of dudes dress up as male cheerleaders left a lot of fans going, well, what's this? This is not what I'm used to. Where's Stone Cold Steve Austin? Stone Cold! And why isn't he kicking people's ass anymore? I always thought that WWE dropped the ball with them a little bit, but from everybody else's perspective, I think there was something there. And as for Eugene, well, that whole thing was just terribly misjudged, and we've talked about that on the channel before. Hell, 13 years ago, Vince McMahon even made the decision to bring back Tatanka. You can watch it now. It's there. It's on the network, 2006. That one didn't last, but clearly Vince isn't against trying all of this once more, and that's why you should keep your eyes on Aleister Black over on SmackDown. I mean, he's cutting promos in dark rooms, and when he comes out of his coffin during his entranceway, we've now got a wood creak. There is something going on there. Don't forget too, the big difference between now and then is that WWE has all the money in the world, or at least they will do when those 2020 contracts kick in. When we're talking about the new generation era, the reason WWE had to shake everything up is because if they didn't, they were absolutely going to go out of business. They were losing it all round. If they hadn't have done that, who knows where they would have been. And let's not forget McMahon's own mentality. Here we have a guy who is he believes in his ideas to such a degree, he is willing to try the XFL again, even though it cost him around about $35 million when it failed last time. He could probably look back to the mid-90s, to the new generation era, to all these gimmicks and go, well, it didn't work then, but it's a different time now. I'm in a different position. I'm going to show everyone. Anytime I did drop the ball, eventually I picked it back up and I kicked it all the way around the world. So I can see him doing it. And obviously the main reason I do want him to do it is so that finally we can bring back Repo Man into the WWE universe. That's all I want. Hell, I'll dress up as Repo Man and do it if you want, WWE. Just get Repo Man back on television. It is the greatest gimmick ever. Here, all we have is a man that goes around repossessing things, and the problem is he's only repossessing things because they didn't get paid by the person that owed them. That is a real job. That's what you have to do. And yet he was a heel. Makes no sense. For some reason, Barry Darso, when he played it, snuck around like he was some kind of thief. He even had a thief bag. Repo Man. The greatest thing to ever happen in the millions' ears of planet Earth. You would have to think this is a throwing everything at the wall situation too, because yes, once again, AEW is on the rise and may be about to announce a giant TV deal. And the last thing you want is for all your fan support to go over there. So before it happens, find out what you need to do to ensure everybody loves you instead. And maybe we start with the gimmicks. And there are a bunch of positive sides, don't get me wrong. I mean, look at the big Raw feud we've got following the Superstar shakeup. It's AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. And don't come around here and tell me you didn't want to see that. We've all wanted to see that since the year dot. Vince McMahon and all his Barry Mender friends knew that. So they're giving it to us. And it was the same with the Viking Experience or whatever they're going to be called now. They heard that we hated it, so at least they did what they could to try and bring that back to balance. Plus, we turned Kevin Owens back heel. I know that was more to do with the Daniel Bryan situation, but I know that I wanted it, and I was very pleased when I got given it. So credit where credit is due, but again, keep your retinas peeled. I think a lot of new gimmicks, maybe some old gimmicks, are about to be rolled out on both Raw and both SmackDown. Sports presentation, my ass. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about gimmicks, old gimmicks, new gimmicks, mid gimmicks, whatever you fancy. Like, share, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and go and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you very much for watching, and there's loads of other wide videos out there. Why not try and watch them all? And also, you can go back to the first ever wide video and think, Simon, why are you so damn scared? It's because I was, but I'm not scared anymore. I'm ready to roll out across these plains and drag it all down, or burn it down like Seth Rollins says. Arsony for everyone. See you soon.